Hello, time for step 15. So one thing I did that I didn't realize I had done was I already put the bottom on this particular turret as well. So I have my turret that I will be using for the Ukraine version build, but I just wanted to show you guys how it goes on, i.e. there's a chink in the bottom, there's tab there, put it on, and actually it just snuggles right in pretty nicely. So there's that. There is part F8 that can go in. The thing is that comes from the outside. You put it on and then you slide this back and forth on the ring until it matches up, and you can actually kind of pivot it a little bit. I would say just set it as square as possible without too much. It's just a place for one of the figures to stand on, since the M2A2 ODS version comes with 2 figures. I just glued that so I can square this up. All I'm trying to do is get this round piece a little bit squared up. Nothing too fancy. So that takes care of part F8. Now, part of the problem with having glued this on already is some of these pieces are going to be a little bit harder to get on than I expected, but they should go on without too much trouble. So, for example, to get part E6 in there, since I already put this on, I've got to slide it in from the side. And rather than going with the other turret and just doing this the easy way, I wanted to show you guys how to do it if you make a mistake and do it this way. But basically what you can see that I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get that to tuck under. And more than likely what happened is when this piece got put on, it got put on incorrectly, like at the wrong angle. So if you have that kind of problem, or I'm sorry, not the wrong angle, but at the wrong spot. So I'm just going to take my hobby knife and carefully work my way down. What I don't want to do is accidentally slice my finger off or break parts off of this armor piece that was put on earlier. So we'll see what can be done. It's just a matter of careful trial and error. This is one of the aspects of the hobby that maybe doesn't get talked about as much as I wish it was. It's not scratch building, and it's not, say, detail fixing as much as it's just, problem solving. What do? I accidentally screwed up and got a little ahead of myself and wasn't thinking or got too excited. And, well, this is my answer to that. Now, the deal is that you can't rush it. With this in particular, you rush it, you're going to slice up and cut the part off, and then it's going to have a screwy problem. Or, worst comes to worst, you end up harming yourself because this is some sharp stuff. So, you got to figure out what's going to get you the result you want. So in this case, it seems like where the glue is holding the strongest, from the little bit of stress I'm seeing with the parts, is right in the center. I mean, kind of where I would expect that it was glued on. And I don't remember gluing this on, so this might be from quite a while ago. Now I'm going through with my knife blade, and I've got a rough idea of how far I've gone and where I've got to go. And it looks like the patch that I've got is just this right here that I've got to free. Doesn't seem like it's that big, but it's kind of important and kind of, I don't want to screw this up. Now each pass I make with the knife is good. Another possibility, if you really wanted to, is to get one of the saws. And you could go in and I'll just do a little bit here to show you. I gotta put this knife down. You go in carefully. The problem is that with all the different things pushing on the saw blade, it might not go in. It's not as thick. I know it's bouncing around, but that's just because I'm sawing away here. But I want to give you an idea of what options you have. It's a nice thin blade. The other option that I like to use is I bought the bigger 1-inch blade, and I don't have it on a handle. And what this does is it just gives me more. It's the same teeth. It's the same, I can't remember what they call it, but fineness of blade or whatever. Just a larger blade. Just work it until you can get a rhythm going. But you got to check on it every once in a while. Make sure you're not cutting something you don't want to cut. There we go. Actually, there we go. That worked really well. So, okay, problem solving done. Got that part off. Clean this up a little bit. One thing I'm actually kind of grateful for is looking at how this attached. It wasn't well glued on the other parts, just in that one spot. So this will help to fix that up, and it shouldn't be anything noticeable. So if you make a mistake, it's not the end of the world. Don't have to throw the model in the garbage and start over or nothing like that. You just got to kind of work with it. Now I've got the back of this, and I'm just using my files to make sure there aren't any, well, in this case, they're not really burrs, but any unevenness. There we go. Just make sure that when I put this back on, it's going to go on without issue. And that's what it looks like. So now that I've got that off, went through all that work, I want to make sure I put this on correctly. And this should butt right up against the bottom of this. Right there. Nice and tight. And this is where, if I was doing this in the normal sequence, I would put all the plates on the bottom here that we're going to be working with, and then put this bottom on while they're still somewhat soft on there. I wouldn't do this in 2 steps, because then if this needs to adjust any of the armor pieces, that's it. Now let's say I had all the top pieces on, I put these bottom pieces on, and then this needs to be done, and it's not quite sitting right. I would go through and shave the bottom of the armor here, or just put this whole piece, minding that you've got that one lug there that needs to be kept, but put it on some sandpaper, something to evenly settle that all down. But we don't have that problem here. That's a good thing. So again, I'm gonna glue this on like so. The other thing is that the armor pieces don't quite fully match the angles of the turret. I would make sure that this is clear here, because this is where the tow launcher goes. So I'd be a little bit more conscious of that. And you can see there's a little bit of a mismatch of the angle there. Just chalk it up to how they made the parts or whatever. Now, here's where I cut that piece off. I'm going to put a good amount of glue on there. Then I'm going to add this part. And yeah, this is set up higher now. But you can see, just taking that off, it didn't really harm it. Now, because I can see that this little bottom part here keeps moving, I'm going to put a little extra right there. Just want that bond. Just want that bond to be solid so that there isn't really a space there, because there shouldn't be. It might involve just softening up the plastic and letting the plastic fill in, because this wants to bend up a little bit. Might be a, kind of like right here, there's a little gap. Just wants to do that, so I just keep kind of pushing it and letting it pull stuff up just to kind of fill it in. Just like there's a little bit of a gap up here. This might be because of how it was taken off. It might be any other issue. Am I really worried about it? Not really, because that basket's going to go on here and block that and all that kind of stuff. By the way, here's the main gun, putting that aside there for now. So, I'm going to set these aside. Let's get on with some of the rest of this right here. See if we have any other issues. So we've got that part right there on the bottom underneath the gun mantlet that we modified. No issues with that when it's in place. Okay, I gotta put it in place, but it only goes down so far, just like on the real thing. Doesn't seem to interfere with anything, so that's good. So, just put glue here and there. Don't get crazy with the glue. Put the E11 part on, and I would try to center it. And I'll be honest, that's one of the places I didn't really get a shot of when I was taking pictures. But I'm going to leave just a little bit of a gap in here because I know these plates up here kind of angled a bit. What I'm trying to do is line it up from the front of this armor across to the front of this armor, just to make it look right. We already know that the gun will fit. Just raise that up a little bit is all. See, that's in there just fine. Gun's in there just fine. Again, like I said, raise it up a little bit. So then I can put it in and out, and then this should still be movable. But then I'm not hitting the piece underneath. And yeah, see, that's exactly it right there, is that piece needed to move over. So I'm going to very, very carefully add some glue right in there. This is part of the downside of how this was designed and then how we modified it, is that there's no internal support in there at all. So it's just glued on this edge to hold it, and then maybe the support of this right here as this glues in underneath can help, but it's going to be a little more delicate. I'll just leave it at that. Moving on. We've got this part right here, goes in here again. Notice how that is buckling, trying to push this in. So we can see that this is somewhat of an issue on doing these steps back to back, because we just put this piece on less than 24 hours ago. And it's too tight. I should not have put this bottom piece on, is essentially what it comes down to, but then we would have had a problem getting this bottom on, and we'd have been tightening it. And so you saw that just clicked underneath there. This isn't easy. Don't do it this way like I just did it. Don't glue the bottom piece on. But what this does show is it will eventually fit. I didn't have to take this piece off. But that part did slide underneath there, but this is tight. So, leaving this hole open, there's nothing to worry about. There's nothing else going in there. I believe that on the real vehicle, this is where the ejection port for the 25mm shell casings comes out of. But now that I've got that in place, and I don't want to move it, I'm going to glue this in. Not a lot of glue is going to go in, but I don't need to. It's such a tight fit. So that looks good there. This piece goes here, like so. But I think first I'm going to get everything. I got to get this piece on. This is another slide-on piece. And again, it's tough because of this bottom piece, but remember this bottom piece would have to be fit otherwise. And there'd be issues, like I said, with sanding it down to get it. So what I'm gonna do is, once again, recommend, don't do it this way. But I'm showing you how to deal with something. Yeah, see, I gripped on that piece there. All we need to do is go a little bit more. That's pretty doggone close right there. Now, because I ripped that bottom off, I'm gonna add a little bit of glue to reattach that properly. Reset that weld, as it were. All right, double check everything. Make sure that in the pushing of stuff around, you're not moving stuff where you don't want it. Looks good. I'm going to take one of these and just put it there. Now you'll notice that there is an indention in here, an indention in there. This mount is here. This is how it's set up. So this doesn't go in the indent. This mounts on here. That's why it doesn't matter so much that this is perfect. Still has to be glued on. And one thing too is that when you put some glue in here, you're gonna have the plastic kind of sticky per se, but it's also going to maybe slide a little bit if for some reason you need to maneuver this, just say back a little bit, or yeah, it's not really moving for me, but in case. The whole point is just, how do you deal with unexpected problems? How do you punt, as it were? So there, I've glued that on. Let that set for just a moment. Now, one thing I will say, I'm going to glue these on as they are to the lower mantlet here, but these smoke grenade launcher boxes are undersized, and that's been noted for a while. So it's not a real surprise. But I'm not going to use this build to adjust that. I'm just going to glue them on. They've already been cleaned up in that. But yeah, I would get larger ones or corrected ones from somewhere, because they're too anemic. And they have slight molding imperfections, dimples in the top of their lids, I guess. So what I'm going to do over here is I want to put this in. Now this one does go in the indent. You don't want to put it in upside down. You want to put it in right side up, like so. Now you want to put this in first, so then when you put that armor piece in, a little triangular piece next to it, that goes where you want it. It's not going to interfere. You don't have to shave things down or fight with it or whatever. And yes, sorry, I keep pulling this a little too close and out of range. So I've got that in. Then I glue this on here, and it goes a lot more smoothly. And I'm just pulling this so that it runs close to the edge of that. So now we've got all the parts from step 15 added. We still have a usable alternate gun system here. But again, I'm going to point it up like that, so then it's not interfering with anything that's glued or drying. So that worked out. A little bit more work than what you should do if you follow the step-by-step instructions on here. You shouldn't have any problems. The only thing is, once again, these lower pieces over here, if you glue the top pieces on, glue those on, you may have to sand down those areas a little bit so that this bottom ring fits properly. But otherwise, a pretty simple step. I'll talk about step 16 real quick. These are for the unit marking plates. We can cut these out, but they're not anything too crazy. I'm just gonna cut them out as noted. So I'll just discuss it here, and then in the next video I'll show it actually done. But they only go with certain versions of this. So the larger ones go with options B, D, and E, and F. B, D, E, and F. And the smaller ones go for option C. So if you're building option A, for example, you don't even need this. And if you are building option C, you don't need this, or the other ones, you don't need that. So I will look into seeing if I want these or not, or whether I want to build option A, and we'll discuss it in the next video. See you then.